Thanks, Jane. Welcome to Wales Today. I'm Lucy Owen. The headlines. The start of the Six Nations can't come soon enough for the hospitality industry. Business owners say without the boost of home games, many wouldn't survive.
Times are really difficult with the cost of living rise and everything else, and it's a difficult time, but I think sometimes you've got to have something to look forward to.
But figures show the number of hospitality business closures in Wales is 10% higher than the rest of the UK. Also tonight, as the Dyfi Bridge opens, we look at the future of road building in Wales. I've been talking to the minister responsible. Further details this evening on where Tata Steel's job cuts will hit. More than half of the jobs in the Port Talbot site will go. Moad Bashir died from cocaine, becoming distressed after he was restrained by police. His family say their training needs to be modernised, overhauled and updated.
We are disappointed by the evidence of police that suggests they do not urgently see the need to overhaul their approach to people with ABD in Wales.
Wales' Six Nations Championship campaign starts against Scotland here tomorrow. With a new-look squad, Wales are rebuilding squad hope of success this season.
Never underestimate the Welsh. They've got absolutely nothing to lose, but fingers crossed, we'll be okay.
My head says Scotland, but my heart says Wales.
You've got to go with the heart.
Good evening. As Wales prepare to host Scotland at the start of this year's Six Nations, the level of hospitality businesses closing here has been described as among the worst ever seen. 4,000 accommodation and food service businesses went bust in Wales and England in the past year alone. The rugby will provide a welcome boost. One man who runs a pub in Cardiff says many would struggle to survive without big events like the Six Nations being held in the capital. Jordan Davis reports.
Hospitality businesses are closing. Many of us have noticed it. Inflation and high energy costs, coupled with the crippling cost of living, have forced pubs, clubs and restaurants to shut for good and take precious jobs with them. So could this year's Six Nations, with Scotland, France and Italy being hosted here, make a difference? The Glamorgan Brewing Company supplies the stadium with ale. The Six Nations gives the business a 20,000-pint boost at a time when its energy costs have increased by 250%. David, a director at the company, says the boost is felt across the sector in Wales and it's needed now more than ever.
There's a cost of living crisis going on, as we're fully aware. There's been difficulty with regards to inflation and interest rates, but similarly electricity costs, energy costs. So the trade has been suffering somewhat, but you know, February and an early game within the Six Nations, particularly at home, allows an early boost in the year for those customers of ours to see some sort of benefit in their take-ins.
It's estimated each home Six Nations game boosts the Welsh economy by more than £20 million. And you can see the direct effect here. Each one of these tanks is full of beer for rugby fans. Like other large events, it fills hotels and encourages people to eat, drink and make merry across Wales. But it comes at a time when the number of businesses becoming insolvent has hit a 30-year high. Nearly 4,000 accommodation and food service businesses went bust in Wales and England last year.
We haven't seen the scale of these closure numbers since the financial crash in 2010. And certainly in Wales, this is one of the worst periods of closure that we've seen. That's partly because Welsh hospitality businesses were hit harder and hit longer with COVID restrictions, so they're taking longer time to recover. And certainly the number of closures in Wales is 10% higher than it is in England and the rest of the UK.
The City Arms, a firm matchday favourite in the shadow of the stadium. There's no doubt it receives a February boost, but is it enough?
Times are really difficult with the cost of living rise and everything else, and it's a difficult time, but I think sometimes you've got to have something to look forward to. And being Welsh and then working and living in the City Arms, you just get this vibe that for once people will just say, come on, let's get out, support Wales and just enjoy ourselves.
The Six Nations will provide an injection in the arm of the Welsh hospitality sector. But will it be enough to revive the patient?
The Dyfi Bridge is a vital connection between north and south, but over the years it's become a notorious bottleneck, narrow and prone to flooding. But today, a brand new £46 million replacement was opened. But new roads will become increasingly rare in Wales as the government seeks to switch more of us onto public transport. We'll hear from the man responsible for that policy in just a moment. But first, Craig Duggan reports from the new Dyfi Bridge.
Wheels on the tarmac, local school children and the Deputy Minister for Climate Change, who's also responsible for transport, cycled across the new Dyfi Bridge this morning on a grey, wet and windy day in Machynlleth.
This road is now open almost exactly a year after the Welsh Government outlined a new approach to road building in Wales. It said projects would only be supported in future if they meet certain tests, including reducing carbon emissions and adapting to the impacts of climate change.
The Welsh Government says the new Dyfi Bridge meets the tests and is a symbol of how Wales will raise the road building bar.
We are going to keep building roads, but they have to pass a test. And one of the things this road does is it helps us to adapt to the climate. The old road just was not fit for purpose with the changing weather and the storms that we've been having.
The old Dyfi Bridge, which was on the A487 trunk road, would often be closed by floods. The 12-mile diversion took drivers along a narrow, winding road. So local people are glad to see the new bridge open, though some are shocked at the price tag.
Oh, man. 46 million. Well, you could build an awful lot of road for that, and an awful lot of houses, I suppose.
I think it will make commuting back and forth so much easier. Sort of winter time, it's horrendous at the moment.
At first sight, it might seem like an enormous project to try and mitigate a small bridge and a couple of hundred yards of road, but it's what it's taken. And that's why we're so grateful that that investment has come in.
The new bridge, sitting 9 metres above the floodplain, should be safe when the Dyfi overtops its banks. It's going to make a big difference, say hauliers. This company's milk tankers pass Machynlleth 40 times each day.
Machynlleth has been a bottleneck over the years, and it's probably one of the two bottlenecks in the roads of Wales. The other bottleneck would have to be the Bringlas tunnels on the M4 corridor. With those two bottlenecks sorted, I think it would make our lives much easier as a haulier.
The old Dyfi Bridge was built in 1805, the year of the Battle of Trafalgar. It's carried everything from horse-drawn carts to HGVs. Its work is done now, as the new Dyfi Bridge has opened to vehicles, pedestrians and cyclists.
Well, earlier I asked Lee Waters, the man responsible for transport in Wales, why roads like this one would still be built, but others wouldn't.
This is a good example. People said we weren't going to build any more roads, and that's not true. We are going to build roads, but they need to pass a test. And actually, I went to Llanbedr before I went to Dyfi Bridge to meet with the community, and I met with the Llanharan people this week as well. And there's a way through here where we can build roads, but they needn't be the roads of the past, which were just designed to get people through fast. It's about doing it differently. It's not saying we're never going to build a road again.
We've heard from hauliers today who welcomed the Dyfi Bridge. They're not happy that the M4 relief road isn't happening. Is there any movement on that?
Well, we have an alternative plan through the Burns Commission of a series of public transport measures to get traffic off the M4. So if people like hauliers who don't have an alternative, it frees the road up. But we can deal with it rather than by building an extra road, which would fill up again.
This is where the problem is, though, isn't it, that the public transport services aren't there right now, so, shouldn't there be better...
There, Lucy, if we spend all our money building more roads all the time.
But you're cutting down on car use right now, and the public transport services aren't there for people.
Well, we're not cutting down on car use, and our overall target is to reduce car journeys by 1 in 10. So this is not a massive change, but we do have to make a change because the reality of climate change is going to upend our economy and cause catastrophic harm to our communities.
Right, I'm going to go there. Let's talk about the 20 miles per hour limit. It's more than 4 months now, isn't it, since it's been introduced. Enforcement's only started this month, though. It's quite a long grace period. Why is that?
Because we deliberately weren't setting out to penalise people. We want to educate people and encourage people to change their behaviour, and the signs are encouraging. Speeds are down. We've got some more monitoring coming out shortly. But, of course, there are teething problems, and there are some sections of roads which don't pass the sniff test. People don't understand why they're being asked to go slower, and we need to look again at them to see whether or not they need to be tweaks.
As we know, councils can decide if some roads are exempt. Now, in Conwy, some councillors want the speed limit to go out to public consultation. What do you think about that? Is that the way that councils should go?
Well, they were meant to have done that in the first place. We wanted councils to consult with the communities of what roads should be kept at 30 and what put at 70. Now, some did that well, some struggled with resources and time to do it. So there's a chance to still do it. And so if people are living on the street where they think it shouldn't be 20, it should go back to 30, they need to let their council know.
OK. Lee Waters, Deputy Minister for Climate Change, thanks so much. It's 2 weeks now since plans to shut the 2 blast furnaces at the UK's biggest steelworks in Port Talbot were confirmed by the Indian owners of the plant. Tonight, details are emerging of the full breakdown of where the job cuts at Tata Steel will be, with half of the workforce at Port Talbot at risk of redundancy. Well, our reporter Ben Price joined us now with the newsroom, from the newsroom rather, with more details. So what is the latest picture then, Ben?
Yes, like you said, Lucy, 2 weeks since Tata Steel announced its plans to close both blast furnaces in Port Talbot. A bit more detail about the numbers here today. 1,929 jobs are at risk at Port Talbot. A much smaller number of jobs are also at risk at other sites across the country, including at Llanwern, Shotton and in Trostre. Now, Tata Steel says it's doing this because of the millions of pounds worth of losses it's making at the site in Port Talbot every year, and it wants to move to a more sustainable, greener future. That's why it's going to build an electric arc furnace there. And the unions say that they don't accept Tata's plans. They want a much slower transition towards an electric arc furnace, and that's why they say they'll continue to fight for every job.
We've told them in no uncertain terms that we're going to accept what they're putting on the table. We never would. We still believe our multi-union plan is the best way forward. From today's meeting, we've said that we're going to instruct our experts now to scrutinise the detail of this plan.
Tata says in a statement tonight that it understands this as an unsettling time for employees and the community, and it'll continue to support them all as a 45-day consultation now gets underway to look at compulsory and voluntary redundancies.
Ben Price, thanks very much for that update. An inquest has heard that a 29-year-old man from Newport died from the effects of cocaine, becoming distressed after he was restrained by police. Officers were called to the home of Moad Bashir in February 2021. His family say police training needs to be modernised, overhauled and updated. But the coroner directed that their actions did not affect the outcome. Our reporter Stephen Fairclough has been at the inquest.
For almost 3 years, Moad Bashir's family have campaigned to keep his death in the public eye, believing that a light needed to be cast on the circumstances of how he died in February 2021 after becoming unwell at his home in the Mice Glass area of Newport. Moad had taken drugs, including cocaine. He'd barricaded himself in his bedroom and he was on the floor and had broken the furniture in the room. His parents called police and an ambulance to the house. A 3-week inquest in Newport has heard that Mr Bashir was restrained by officers who said they cuffed his arms behind his back and strapped his legs together for his safety and for the safety of others. Body-worn camera images of the incident were shown to the jury, where Moad Bashir could be seen trying to kick out at the officers. The inquest jury found that the police did not recognise some signs of a condition called acute behavioural disturbance, which can seriously affect some people who have taken cocaine and can be made worse by restraint. But the coroner directed that there was nothing that could have been done to affect the outcome. Moad Bashir died after a cardiac arrest in the ambulance.
We entered this process thinking changes would be identified and put in place. We are disappointed by the evidence of police that suggests they do not urgently see the need to overhaul their approach to people with ABD in Wales.
Gwent Police referred themselves to the Independent Office for Police Conduct following Moad's death. The IOPC has found that communication with his family lacked empathy and compassion. It said the use of force was reasonable, but recommended training in respect of restraint and ABD.
We are making sure that our officers are fully compliant with the College of Police and guidance around this, and we're also making sure in terms of ABD that our officers are confident in calling out the signs and symptoms where they may suspect them in order to make sure that we can reflect that accurately.
The coroner directed the jury that only a narrative conclusion could be reached in this circumstance, but that they could consider contributory factors. The jury concluded that the death was caused by cocaine intoxication. This was contributed to by ABD following a period of restraint. The coroner said she would be writing to Gwent Police about ABD, and she expressed her condolences to the family. Stephen Fairclough, BBC Wales Today, Newport.
The inquest into the death of a 16-year-old boy who fell from the Great Orme in Llandudno on a scout trip has heard that the group's leader didn't tell them not to stray from the main path. Ben Leonard from Stockport died in August 2018. Matthew Richards reports.
Reddish Explorer Scouts travelled to North Wales in August 2018 to walk up Arwyddfa, also known as Snowdon, but poor weather conditions meant they took an unplanned walk up the Great Orme in Llandudno instead. The group of 9, mostly aged 14 to 18, was led by Sean Glaister, an experienced scout leader. 16-year-old Ben Leonard became separated from the main group of scouts, which included Mr. Glaister and 2 assistant leaders, and fell 200 feet while trying to find a route back down the Orme. Sean Glaister said he believed the Great Orme was classified as Terrain Zero, the lowest risk category in the Scout Association policy document, as it was less than 500 metres above sea level and close to a road. He was asked at the inquest in Manchester why he hadn't told the Scouts not to go outside any Terrain Zero areas into more high-risk places. He said, "I didn't think at the time it fell into Terrain 1 or 2. He said before Ben's death he'd never completed a written risk assessment for any scouting activity, but he said since the incident everything has changed, it's all risk assessed. Sean Glaister was asked about the Scout Association's policies, organisation and rules, which set out steps to be taken prior to any activity, including the need for written risk assessments. He said it was in the background and not something that was promoted by the association. But he was reminded of an email from a Deputy District Commissioner prior to the North Wales trip saying that Arwyddfa could be challenging and advising Mr Glaister to look at the rules. Mr Glaister said, "If he'd said make sure you do a written risk assessment, I would have carried that out. That's clearly not what he put." The hearing continues.
Now, it's one of the standout sporting highlights in the calendar, and tonight the Six Nations kicks off in Paris. Tomorrow, a much-changed Wales side will take on Scotland. Thomas is at the Principality Stadium for us. And what are the expectations this year then, Thomas?
Well, Lucy, it's a bit of a new look to the squad, and some big names are no longer part of Welsh rugby's landscape. I'm thinking of Lewis Rhys-Zammit, who just a few weeks ago announced he was off to America to explore a career in American football. There have been some high-profile retirements too in recent months. Dan Biggar, Lee Halfpenny among them, with more than 100 caps to their names. And when you were factoring the very long injury list, well, the task ahead is laid bare. Now, while not many observers are giving Wales a chance this year, the message from the players today has been blunt and has been clear. Don't write us off.
It's back. The competition in which Wales have enjoyed considerable success in recent years. But with new faces in the team, what's hope this year?
No better competition in the world, is there? New look squad for the boys, a lot of boys getting their opportunities to play in their first Six Nations, and no better way to start at home against Scotland in a packed Principality Stadium.
A new captain will lead the team here tomorrow. 21-year-old David Jenkins is being handed the honour just 12 caps into his career.
We've just focused on Scotland so far. Obviously, if you win your first game of the Six Nations, no one knows where it can take you. There's no fear within the squad, and hopefully the country gets behind us.
Jenkins will become the youngest Wales captain since Gareth Edwards in 1968. The rugby legend says he's ready for the responsibility.
My first secondary school's cap was with his grandfather all those years ago. He's playing so well for Exeter for a start. They've made him a captain of their team over the last couple of months. He has shown he has the capability on young shoulders to sort of see wider than just what he has to do as a second row.
When it comes to making home advantage count, Wales have repeatedly delivered in the Six Nations against Scotland. It's 22 years since the Scots last won here in Cardiff.
Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend was the fly half that day. They've arrived as favourites, despite their dismal record here.
I don't think we talk about why we struggled here in the past, but we've talked about the record and the fact that we have to do something about that, and also embrace the challenge that playing in this stadium brings, playing against a very passionate side.
At the stadium shop today, they're getting ready for a big change in the competition.
That look okay?
For the first time, all 6 teams will have players' names on the shirts. It's hoped it'll help attract casual fans.
Never underestimate the Welsh. They've got absolutely nothing to lose, so. But fingers crossed, we'll be okay.
Hopeful?
Fingers crossed. It'll be a fair game. What do you think?
We'll be fine. We'll win. Don't worry about that.
We've got to fetch the youth through, haven't we, the youngsters?
And I think we'll benefit in a few more years to come.
So patience is needed, you think?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Very much. My head says Scotland, when my heart says Wales.
You've got to go with the heart.
So looking ahead with hope rather than expectation. With a Wales team in transition, any realistic challenge for silverware this season appears unlikely.
Well, the roof is shut tonight. It'll remain shut tomorrow after a U-turn from Scotland. They had initially asked for it to be open, but they changed their minds. You won't miss a thing here on the BBC this weekend. The match is live here on BBC One Wales from 4 o'clock. Club Rugby Rhyngwladol is live on S4C, commentary too on Radio Wales and Radio Cymru, and review the game with the Scrum 5 team over on BBC 2 Wales on Sunday at 6 o'clock. Whatever your plans this weekend, have a good one, Lucy.
Thomas, thank you so much. Now, 2 Welsh firefighters who skied and walked almost 750 miles from the coast of Antarctica to the South Pole say it feels like it was a surreal dream. Rebecca Openshaw Rowe and Georgina Gilbert, known as the Antarctic Fire Angels, are back home now after trekking through temperatures as low as minus 41 Celsius. Our reporter Rebecca Miles has been catching up with them.
The moment they had been waiting for.
You did it! You did it! Amazing!
After 4 years of training, Rebecca Openshaw Rowe and Georgina Gilbert, who are both firefighters, traversed the equivalent of 29 marathons to reach the South Pole. It took them 52 days, 10 hours and 30 minutes.
It feels really surreal and almost like a dream that we are in the Antarctic and it ever happened. You know, I think it's going to take quite a long time for it all to sink in and for us to realise, you know, what we actually did is just so epic and so far away from our normality. I think, yeah, it's going to take a while.
We trained in some pretty poor weather in Norway and Sweden, but nothing really prepares you for Antarctica. There's nothing like it. It is so extremely cold and really quite intimidating as well, because the landscape is so big and you feel very, very small compared to the continent.
Rebecca and Georgina say they were inspired by those who came before them. This landmark in Cardiff's Roath Park stands as a memorial to Captain Robert Scott and the crew of the SS Terra Nova. They set sail from the city in 1910 with the intention of reaching the South Pole, but died on the return journey.
We wouldn't have been able to have done that unless they had pioneered it themselves. So, yeah, it's really quite a privilege to be in that same sentence, really.
Our goal was the pole, obviously, and that really, you know, kept us going. We never felt like we wanted to stop or give up. I think that was never, you know, never in our minds. And I think the fact there was so many people excited about us going, you know, we've been in so many schools, we've engaged with over 10,000 pupils, all our friends and family, you know, we wanted to make them proud.
Another of their goals was to inspire other women and girls to show them they can do anything they set their mind to.
be brave and have the courage to try and have a go at living your dreams, I think. You know, whether you get there or not, it doesn't matter, enjoy yourself.
Start by believing in yourself, because that's what we did. We couldn't ski, we didn't know how to do any of this to begin with 4 years ago.
There are no plans yet for another adventure as both women readjust to life in a slightly warmer climate.
Yeah, what an achievement. Well done, Fire Angels. Yes, a little warmer than the South Pole here, fortunately. No minus 41 Celsius this weekend, please, Derek. How's it looking?
Yes, no snow and ice for us in Wales this weekend, Lucy. It's going to stay mild and breezy, damp at times as well, with mist, low clouds and hill fog. But we should see a little bit of sunshine in places. Now, we've seen a big contrast in the weather across the country today. It's been grey and misty in Langland, on Gower, some drizzle there as well. But a different story further northeast in Coed Poeth near Wrexham. It's been breezy, yes, but dry with some blue sky and sunshine and very mild with a high of 13 Celsius, 55 Fahrenheit. Now, tonight will stay mild and breezy with plenty of low cloud, a few dribs and draps of light rain and drizzle, some poor visibility, but drier and a bit clearer in parts of the north and east. Temperatures staying well above freezing, 8 to 11 Celsius. And then tomorrow we have a weather front lying through Ireland and the north of England. To the south of that, the air is mild and moist. Further north, it's a bit colder. So tomorrow then a little sunshine likely in parts of the north and east, but on the whole plenty of low cloud, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle moving through. Most of the rain on the hills and mountains in mid and north Wales with mist and hill fog. May turn dry in the north later in the afternoon. Temperatures above average but feeling cooler in the moderate to fresh west to southwesterly wind. Good job, I think the roof is closed for the match tomorrow in Cardiff. It will keep the drizzle out, a grey and damp day at times in Cardiff. The temperature around 10 or 11 Celsius and quite breezy. On into Sunday, we have plenty of low cloud again, a few patches of light rain and drizzle, some mist and hill fog. But if you're lucky, you may see a few glimpses of sunshine. Temperatures, again, above the seasonal average, 10 to 13 Celsius, with a moderate to fresh west to southwesterly wind. Now, today is a special day. It's not Lucy's birthday, but it's Groundhog Day or Candlemas Day. And there's an old saying, if Candlemas Day be fair and bright, winter will have another fight. If Candlemas Day brings clouds and rain, winter won't come again. Well, next week will stay mild for the most part, damp at times, turning more unsettled on Thursday and Friday with stronger winds. And then it looks like turning colder as we head into next weekend as the wind turns more into the north or northwest. So we haven't seen the last of winter yet. Lucy.
Derek, thank you very much and happy Candlemas Day to you. That's Wales Today. We'll be back with the latest after the BBC News at 10. But for now, from all of us on the programme, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.